Hey everybody, it's H, and welcome to the latest installment of Dune Pod, your one-stop shop to get ready for the new Dune movie. This week, I'm joined as always by my co-host Jason.
No, I don't dislike this movie. I think this movie is fine.
And by co-host of the 70mm podcast, my old pal Slim.
The face H just made was like the most sensual thing I've ever seen.
On this episode, we discuss Denis Villeneuve's 2013 surreal Jake Gyllenhaal thriller, Enemy. We discuss ambiguity in film storytelling, the deeper meaning of Jungian theory, and declare that we are not here to spiders. If you're listening to this show, we need your help. Be like new listeners Gendia, EGB, and Lil Benny Boy, and leave us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, as it really helps new listeners find the show. And now, without further ado, Enemy. As one of the all-time great living podcast producers and tech consultants, what do you think are the 5 things that are wrong with Dune Pod's audio recording so far?
Is this the show starting now, or is this the pre-show?
Yeah, this is it. This is just like come and shit on Dune Pod. Specifically Matt's production. Tell us what Matt did wrong for the last 20 episodes.
I don't know. Matt's H is doing a great job so far, in my opinion.
I've been working hard.
When he listens, I mean, once you cut down that editing time by about 90%, then you're gonna start flying.
Yeah, I know. We need him shorter, and like tonight's gonna be a challenge too because we've got a lot of Dune news on the front half, obviously.
Uh-huh. Let's see, H math, if it's a 2-hour raw edit, that's about 18 hours of editing for H right now, which if any other editor heard that, they'd probably fall out of their chair.
Yeah. No, I have a problem, but I realized this week while I was in hour 14 of Euphoria, I actually really like editing. Like it's a fun part of the process. So maybe
that's the main thing.
I'm enjoying it too much. Well, Slim, welcome to Dune Pod.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, finally.
We're super stoked to have you here. Slim, the host and the creator of many, many different podcasts, but the most recent of which is 70mm, which started in January.
Yeah, this year, not too long ago.
Yes, it was incredible that no one had ever done a movie podcast before, but you guys broke new ground.
We saw a space that needed to be filled, and we saw an opportunity to innovate.
Yes.
And we made that happen, and things are going pretty well. We're pretty pumped. It's fun to talk about movies, as you guys probably know every week as I listen to talk about and watch movies. It's fun.
Yeah, you guys are a little more hardcore on Letterboxd and rating, but it's been really great listening to your podcast. And of course, our listeners on Dune Pod know your partner in crime, Protolexis, who's been on our podcast many times, one of the co-founders of the original Dune Pod. So we are discussing tonight Denis Villeneuve's Enemy, 2013 film starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Jake Gyllenhaal. But next week, 70mm month continues as we have your third living host of 70mm, famous Star Wars artist Danny Haas.
I directly correlate all popularity for 70mm to Danny's art. And we try to lean in as much as possible to the artwork he makes for those episodes. So
it's beautiful art.
Yeah, we just started a print shop because we ended up getting a lot of requests for people to buy the art.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Not to toot our own horn, but I don't think a lot of podcasts do custom episode artwork, let alone the art he produces. So we're pretty lucky that he has the time and desire. So
the movie Danny's coming on to do is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, which is shot by Greg Fraser, who is the director of photography on Dune, as well as the new Batman film.
Next to Last Jedi, probably the best looking IMO Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think this is a safe
take. Fantastic. So we're very excited for that for next week.
He's also the one co-host who doesn't have a handle. Unless Danny Haas is a handle for something else. I remember on the first Dune Pod with Protolexis and H, they were like, so what do you go by? And I was like, my name's Jason. What you prefer, Jason or Goldman or something else? I was like, I don't have a cyberpunk podcast handle.
When I first started podcasting, that was always something that I kind of also leaned into, which was like nicknames or something to remember someone by. And I think that might be coming from like my pro wrestling fanhood background, where everyone kind of had a thing.
Smart.
And it was like ingrained in you that you remembered that person. And that's just something that always stuck with me in any kind of like podcast production that I've done, for better or worse.
That's good. That's smart. I've never had any nicknames at all, except for my first or last name. But I was given a cyberpunk nickname in my early 20s by a friend of mine who called me Double Density.
Whoa.
Which is not my favorite nickname.
Is that like 5 1/4 inch floppy double density discs?
Yeah, exactly.
That is some nerdy ass right there.
That was
big time.
That was just before Slim was born.
I remember floppies. I'm not that young.
Okay.
I used floppy drives. I remember buying a CD burner for my Hewlett Packard Pavilion tower.
Oh yeah. I used to sell those.
Oh wow.
At Whole Earth Access.
Copying DVDs, copying CDs. That was a crazy time.
Without any further ado, let's get into Dune news.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah.
My God.
Today was kind of a big one.
So much Dune news.
I know. So let's just go ahead and start with the official trailer cold takes. We now have had many hours, and we have recorded a reaction podcast, which got released about 2 hours ago. So if you're listening to this next Wednesday, go back and listen to that for the hot takes. But let's start with Slim. What was your take on the trailer? What did you think?
I think it looks really good. I've never read the Dune books. I have watched the Dune movie, the original.
You were like really.
You were not a fan. You were not a fan.
I gave it 2 stars on my letterbox.
There was a lot of Kyle MacLachlan slander on that podcast.
There was. So that's my Dune lore outside of listening to this podcast. I don't have any kind of emotional connection outside of Timothée Chalamet's riveting dynamic performance in Little Women, which I think got some unneeded negativity during that episode from Jason.
We're getting into it early.
But the trailer looks good. I'm excited to watch it. My only hot take is that I'm sort of worried in today's climate that it's just going to be a total bust for Denis and friends. I mean, it's got to make a lot of money. And it's coming out this year in like 2 months. So
it can't, I think this is a good subject of discussion, which is like the business concerns and the marketing concerns of this movie. Which like I got pinged by a bunch of friends of mine who are like, not Dune fans, but like, no, I am. They're like, okay, I saw the trailer. I have no idea what this is about, but I like that it's got a lot of stars in it. Like there's a lot of people in this movie I know.
Who resonated the most? Like which stars really hit?
So like, it was funny. My friend Cody texted me and was like, he's like, this movie, like what I saw the trailer, I have no idea what this movie is about, but it reminded me of that Patton Oswalt skit in Parks and Rec, where he does the Star Wars filibuster, and he's just like, Leia we don't know where she is, but she's being chased by Boba Fett, and then a portal opens, and the X-Men twin jet comes through, and they're battling the TIE fighter.
Comes through the X-Men's Quinjet. That's right. What we did was back on Earth, we showed him gathering up all the heroes, but we didn't see him gathering up the X-Men. So, oh my goodness, now Wolverine's going to be there. Now Cyclops going to be there. So the Quinjet comes through. Luke gets in his X-Wing to go out and meet them, and they engage in this awesome star battle. And it looks like the Quinjet actually is going to shoot Luke down, and suddenly this volley of lasers comes in, and what comes flying in is we think it's going to be the Millennium Falcon, just like in episode 4 when he comes in and saves him during the Battle of Yavin. But no, it is Slave One. That's right, Boba Fett shit.
And he's like, all I know is that like Aquaman and Thanos are in this movie, so that seems kind of cool. So yeah, there's just like it has like big stars, and I think that's what people got. The other takes I heard from non or lesser fans is like, oh, it feels like a young adult story. Like it's like like two kids who are trying to be together against all odds or something. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's it. But I think how they marketed this movie is gonna be a real challenge, because I don't think people from the trailer will get what Dune is actually about. And so I don't know if that will drive interest. They might just have to drive it on the star power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does feel like it's got to be star power alone at this point. I mean, if anyone read a sort of brief synopsis on the movie itself, they might be more turned off than the trailer. So I'm wondering what they'll reveal in the trailer, and it's dicey play for them, unfortunately.
I feel like it's two things. There's complexity in the work is the first piece, and then the second is just the COVID, the backdrop of that, right? And so I was making the case in the Slack today as we were discussing this. If you're Warner Brothers, you have one of the all-time premier pieces of intellectual property. Like, this is the best thing ever. You started working on it 3 years ago. It really sucks that there's a global pandemic that's happening, and the box office is not going to be as big as it might have been. The question is, what do they do about it, right?
Right. I think they shouldn't just do the standard thing. I think they should take a risk with like how they distribute this movie, because I just don't think its box office is going to justify the cost that goes into it, and I very much want them to be able to justify the cost of making the second one. Otherwise, it's going to be one of the great movie disappointments of all time. And so, like, by creative, I mean, this movie has like an entrenched fan base. Like, find something to sell to that fan base that is a premium experience that they will pay for. Like, find some way to like give like charge people $30, $40 to see this movie. Like, at the same time it comes on theatrical release, and you get like something for doing it. I don't think solely relying on the box office during a pandemic is a sound strategy, because people are not going to be going to the movies in December.
Yeah, I would, because I always relate this back to his Blade Runner 2 performance. Like, people love that, but like barely enough people came to see that, and like a 3-hour sequel to Blade Runner. So they think they like misjudged the amount of people that were excited to pay money to see that. So I wonder if the same thing is going to happen. Like, that's why there's so many notable stars in this. I would love for them to just be like, just bail on theatrical, put it on whatever app. Is it Warner Brothers, you said?
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah.
Like, put it on HBO Max or something. Like, make it an in-app purchase. I don't care.
So what we're seeing right now, though, is the studios trying both, right? So Disney doing Mulan on 70 millimeter tomorrow night. They did it exclusively as a rental for $30. Tenet is exclusively theatrical and did 20 million in the US last weekend, 73 million globally so far, against a $200 million budget. I think the answer is you do both. You put it out theatrically and you sell it on day one for $30 or whatever, and you try a hybrid.
We were talking earlier in Pert Alexis. He thought this movie was coming out next December. So it's not. It's like, it's right around the corner. I feel like the box office outlook for this movie is so bleak, unfortunately. And they have, like you said, the second movie riding on this movie. The performance of this movie, monetary wise, I don't know.
Can we get a GoFundMe going for Warner Brothers?
We need it. We need $200 million. Yeah. Let's see. Please help my studio. It's sick.
Please clap.
Someone help Warner Brothers, please.
All right.
I don't know, man. They should. I would just like, Warner Brothers, I know you listen to this podcast. Legendary, I know you're big Dune Pod listeners. Try something creative. Don't just like say, well, let's see what happens in the box office. It's not going to work. Like, you can't just count on this theatrical. Like, you can't just count on the theatrical release of this film.
You could get Timothy on this podcast. If they're going to think about getting creative marketing wise,
there you go.
How could Dune Pod not get someone from the cast of Dune on this podcast?
And we'll do it for free. Like, we don't have to be paid by Warner Brothers or Legendary. We'll tell people that there is a lot of money in it, that we got paid like $500,000 to do.
We got a big audience. There are a lot of people listening to Dune Pod that are ready to get queued up. So call us. All right. Well, listen. Shall we get down to business?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Enemy is a battle against our own nature and the choice between security versus excitement. Adam Bell is a mild-mannered history professor with a beautiful girlfriend, though he seems listless and exhausted by his repetitive existence. Adam's life changes when he notices that an actor in a film he's watching looks exactly like him. Shocked and scared, Adam locates and approaches Anthony, his seeming doppelganger. Although they look and sound identical, Anthony is charming, funny, and explosive, while Adam is shy, afraid, and weak. Adam unravels as he is drawn deeper into Anthony's life and as Anthony begins taking over his. Will Adam find his own independence, or will he be trapped as just a reflection of his own enemy?
What an intro.
There we go.
It's great. It's great.
So, Slim, you had seen this film before?
Never. This and Prisoners are in my Denny blind spot. I think
Hugh Jackman's Prisoners?
Yeah, I have not seen it. I think I might have been
Roger Deakins
pushed away from it
Prisoners?
just because I heard there's some sketchy subject matter in Prisoners.
Yes.
About kids or something. So I put that to the end of my watch list maybe. So this was 100% my first viewing of this movie. I knew nothing about it going in.
Same.
Yeah, I watched it a couple of years ago and found it like fascinating and also just completely confusing and ambiguous. So it was fun to come back and revisit it for a second time, and I will be interested to get your takes on it. So just quickly, cast and crew, we have Denny, obviously, and Jake, who they work together on Prisoners. I was really bummed, actually, that Jake is not in Dune. I thought he would have been a perfect Thufir Hawat or Duncan Idaho. I would have loved to see Jake.
Maybe he'll be Fade.
Oh, my.
Could be.
The face H just made was like the most sensual thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was thinking of that mermaid bikini scene.
It was also featuring production design by Patrice Vermette, who worked with him on this and Arrival and Sicario and Dune. So there's a lot of connective tissue there. So this film starts out. It's a very so we'll attempt not to spoil right out of the gate to the extent it's possible for us to understand. And
A guy fucks a spider.
good start. But it starts with a voicemail from his mother saying that she's worried about him and asking about his apartment. How can you live like that? And he's just sitting in his car. Then you have this quick shot of Helen, pregnant, sitting on the bed. And then we go to the quote, "Chaos is order yet undeciphered."
So the quote's like from the book that the movie's based on. I think Isabella Rossellini's voice is pretty immediately recognizable to anyone who's seeing a Canadian art house film, probably. Right. And I think when you hear the first spoken dialogue in the film being Isabella Rossellini, followed by a naked woman, followed by a quote from a book in another language, you're kind of being given a pretty clear sign of what you're in for here. I mean, the Isabella Rossellini in and of itself is kind of like, okay, like there's going to be some fucking psychological Jungian shit happening in this movie. And, let's get ready.
So we go from there to this incredible shot of this private club. And we have Anthony walking down the hallway and he just immediately looks smooth. So we saw Adam from behind in the car shot. We saw his eyes in the reflection, but then very quickly we see Anthony, who is just a suave motherfucker in this, all black suit. And he walks in, turns a key that he pulls out to go into this room that is just filled with a bunch of creepos watching this sex show. Slim, what was your instant reaction?
I don't know what I was getting into with this movie. I was just, what is going on? What is this sex club? What am I going to be watching for the next 90 minutes? And then a spider gets revealed and likely stepped on by some scantily clad nude woman in high heels. And I was like, what is going on in this movie right now?
Was your wife sitting next to you or she was...
I think I did not watch this after work. I might have had this on maybe the late stages of the day. So I started it so I didn't have to worry about my son running in.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. And that was kind of sort of my vibe probably for the first half, 3/4. This doesn't feel like a Denny movie to me. Like, in my opinion, this is right before Sicario. And then you kind of get to see some more Denny flair, I guess, which a lot of it is due to Deakins.
Yeah.
But This was like hard for me to get into at first. So like, well, this doesn't remind me of any of his movies that I've seen before.
It was definitely confusing, right? So it throws you off balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree. It has some elements of the grounding in terms of some of the visual aspects of it, but I agree. It definitely is a much more kind of theoretical and surreal film as opposed to the others that he's made.
To me, it was just like, oh, like this isn't going to be Sicario or Arrival. This isn't going to have that kind of naturalistic filmmaking that you see in those, like in terms of the story or the way it's put together. This is going to be much more of a Lynchian movie.
Blue Velvet.
It's very like that was immediate. I was like, it's Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, like where it's immediately these surrealistic themes and this like everything's slightly uncanny.
But also, what year was it set in? Did they ever say?
So I was wondering that too, because he goes to the DVD store and like it's like not streaming, and I kind of just chalked that up to like it was like late. Like he didn't have a streaming, he didn't have Netflix yet or something. Like
right. It also looked like he went into a VHS shop.
Yeah, it did.
Like when he was walking through the aisles, it looked like a retro VHS, but it just almost made me feel like it wasn't retro because when he watches the movie, he plays it on his laptop and it looked like it was like 1998 Windows XP or some bogus, something like that.
It was like a Mission Impossible, custom interface on a Pan Am flight.
Well, again, like all of the parts of it that felt slightly off, like slightly like kind of just like, surreal or kind of tilted out of reality a little bit, like to me was like the immediate clue of like, oh, okay, this is like a surrealistic psychological movie in which like the things that are happening are not literal. And like, so the other reference besides Lynch is Eyes Wide Shut for me, where I'm like, okay, like, this is Kubrick built this whole set of New York to make it look like New York, but like the set doesn't work geographically. There's these weird tricks in it because it's supposed to be a dream New York. It's not real New York. And so it's this inherently dealing with these subconscious, like, these subconscious ideas, which then to me was like kind of like the way into the whole movie. Cause anytime a dude is making a movie with subconscious Jungian themes, it's always about adultery. It's always about like wanting to fuck someone outside of your marriage. That is like legitimately like the one exception to that is Mulholland Drive, where it's the protagonist is a woman, but like in general, like whether it's Eyes Wide Shut or whatever, it's about like the constraints of marital morality and how they feel binding to the dude making the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we kind of hit this. I just want to quickly cover, it's established. I think it's important. Adam kind of has this life where he's teaching classes. He's a history professor.
Control. It's all about control. Every dictatorship has one obsession, and that's it. How do they do that? Lower education. They limit culture, censor information. They censor any means of individual expression. And it's important to remember this, that this is a pattern that repeats itself throughout history.
And it does quickly, to your point, Jason, it establishes, he teaches, he goes home, his girlfriend, Mary, who is beautiful, comes over, they have dinner, they have sexy times, and then the day seems to repeat again. It's the same lecture about control. When it was great to have that, this is a pattern that repeats itself, to say that again is a second time with extra weight. And then same dinner, same business. And it's really triggered when one of the other professors in the lounge suggests that he watch a movie called Where There's a Will, There's a Way. I
love the close-up of Jake Gyllenhaal right before that professor suggests the film. There's a really tight shot of Jake Gyllenhaal kind of looking, ennui laden or something. But like he really is doing a lot with just his face.
And even like before that scene, his apartment is one of the most illy lit apartments. Totally. I would be having headaches constantly having dinner with this man as his girlfriend. Get some lights in that apartment, please, God.
Yeah,
it's a shithole.
Call Wayfair. What's going on?
Wayfair on the horn.
So Adam, he rents it. He goes to the DVD store. He gets it, and then he watches it. And they sort of cut to the movie being over and him closing it, and he hasn't had any reaction, like nothing happened there, except that when he goes to bed, he ends up getting aggressive with Mary, kind of tries to wake her up and hook up, and she does not like that, and she tells him to stop, and then she leaves, and you immediately have this smash cut where we're inside the movie.
Yeah, that was a weird scene. I didn't know what was going on. It felt like I was kind of like, it took me a while to realize if this is a dream sequence or is this, because he's in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the dream, you might think it's a dream where he's like putting himself in the movie, but he's actually watching it, I think, at that time. Or maybe it was a dream and then he rewatches it right after.
He sees himself, like they show him as the bellhop, and then he wakes up, and then he goes out and he grabs his laptop, and he rewinds.
Skips that DVD around.
Exactly.
How about the audio of that DVD twirling around in that disc drive? The audio in this movie was actually really, really fantastic. I don't know what it was, but him in his car, him opening the door to his car, they spent a lot of time on the sound design of this movie, and it really paid off. But yeah, him seeing himself in the movie was really cool. Like, where do you even start if you see like, presumably a twin of some kind of you in a movie? I thought that was pretty cool.
And notably, he holds up a photograph of himself against like the image of the bellhop in the movie, and the photograph's like torn in half. Like it looks like a photo you'd have if you'd broken up with someone.
I wonder if that will come back into play later.
Yeah, and maybe it will.
That shot there when he's standing in his apartment and he's kind of freaking out. He's scared to look at the laptop and to find out more. And there, it's a total Deakins shot. And I think this is just after Prisoners, when Denny worked with Deakins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was some. Like I said earlier, it's a very dark movie. Like if your TV or your monitor doesn't really pop those colors, you're in for a long viewing.
Yeah, I had that problem.
But the way that they did use the light, I thought was pretty well done. And it's a very yellow movie. Mm-hmm. Like the palette used in this film is continuous throughout the entire thing.
Totally.
One thing we forgot to mention is in the video store, the song that's playing is called "The Cheater," and it's about a guy who can't control himself from sleeping around. In case you
nice
want to know what this movie is about.
A lot of clues throughout this movie.
Yeah. So Adam starts to freak out. He can barely work. He's like having a hard time concentrating, and he decides to go to the casting agency. So this is one of those awesome shots of the city on the way there, and I definitely felt like it was a proto 2049 shot in terms of the look of it. And he basically gets in. He's recognized by the security guard there, who calls him Anthony. And he bluffs his way and basically picks up Daniel's mail and finds out that it's his name and his address. What'd you think about that? Him with the sunglasses, shopping for the sunglasses and then doing.
I wanted to slap him around a few times. Yeah, I just felt like he was going to be arrested at any moment during this entire scheme. Like he couldn't have been a worse liar in these things in any scene.
I love what he's like. He's like, yeah, maybe 6 months or longer. Like he's just like.
Jake did a great job as playing two characters. Yeah. Like this kind of bumbling, anxious zilch who has never done anything like wrong in his life. He just plays it by the book. Like he did amazing at that. And it really hit me kind of later in the movie when they're showing it together or vice versa. But he did great.
Yeah.
Totally. So I do have a note at this point. He goes to the apartment complex, which is like a super nice apartment complex for Anthony's place. And I just have a note that says, can we talk about Jake's beard for a minute? Like that is lush.
It's a thick beard. It almost makes him look like he's out of shape because I guess I'm used to seeing him as Mysterio recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it made him look like he really put on weight, but it probably wasn't even the case at all.
No.
All right. So Adam calls Anthony and his wife, Helen, picks up the phone. And he is like super awkward, as you described, Slim, like could not be more of a buffoon in the midst of this. And she immediately thinks that it is Anthony calling, and she's kind of really playful with him, and she thinks he's doing a joke. But there is this moment where it turns, and she immediately gets freaked out. And, she says, "Who is this?" And he just hangs up.
Yeah, Helen was great in this movie. Helen was fantastic. Mm-hmm. The phone call scene, the scene where she eventually goes to confront him at his school,
really
just to look at him. And then later in the movie, man, she was fantastic. She
Sarah
was amazing.
Gadon. She's Canadian.
Really great. So Adam calls back and Anthony answers. And I love this moment. Adam, the first thing he says is, "This is Anthony." And then he says, "This is Anthony Claire, isn't it?" As a question mark, but it works completely as the double entendre for the question mark there. And so that's where you have, Anthony hangs up on him. They calls him back. He says, "This is crazy. Your voice sounds just like mine." He says he's sorry. And then we switch over to Anthony's side of the conversation for the end of that, and him hanging up and then telling Helen that this guy sounded like a stalker.
Yeah, you kind of like are introduced to the Anthony character because he had some, infidelity, and she thinks that it wasn't a stalker. She thinks it was maybe someone's husband.
You're lying to me.
You're acting crazy.
I'm not crazy. Who was on the phone?
I told you it was a man who was on the phone.
Are you seeing her?
Helen, I don't want to get into this.
Are you seeing her again?
I think you need to get something to eat. Let's go get something to eat. And then...
I don't want to get anything.
It was a man! It was a man! What do you think it was? A jealous husband?
Yeah.
I don't want to get into this again.
And it kind of just shows you that their relationship is like pretty, like, I guess, like near shambles, or hasn't really fully healed yet. And he like runs to the bedroom and I guess writes down his information to call him back, right? So he's still hiding something from her, even though he was telling the truth about the stalker. He's still hiding something. He wants to connect with this crazy alleged stalker that it might be his twin.
Right. And this is kind of where like none of the characters' reactions to like discovering this like double situation really makes sense if this movie was literal, like if this movie was taking place in reality. And like, like if you discovered like you had a double, would you like do this whole weird, like kind of detective thing? Probably not. It's not 100% wrong, but it's off. And I think is like a sort of a clue again that we're operating in a subconscious realm.
I think that makes sense. So Anthony calls Adam at school, and Adam says, "That's so strange. I had a feeling that you'd call." And Anthony wants to meet him outside the hotel. And then from there, we have Helen, who had looked into Anthony's pockets and found the name. She goes to school and finds Adam. So I just want to call out the soundtrack here by Danny Bensi and Sonder Jurians. It was so grating. The strings and bassoons or oboes, I never know the difference between those, but it was really jarring.
There's several aspects of this movie that start to become very unsettling. I think at like the halfway point in multiple ways. Yeah, I think the music kind of continues that trend for sure.
I was getting a Johan Johansson vibe.
Yeah.
So it made sense to me to go from this over to Sicario.
The Sicario and Arrival, yeah.
Yeah. So that scene, we referenced it before, is really beautiful with Helen and Adam on the bench. And he's like super exhausted and kind of goofy. And he's nice to her, but she looks really nervous and uncomfortable the whole time. But I just love that interaction. And for her, this is obviously like a freak out scene, right?
Yeah, I thought the way he was talking to her was kind of strange because you don't really see Adam, the character, being like outwardly communicative to anyone. And I guess maybe that kind of plays into the way he reacts to females and later in the movie as metaphorical. But like he's really open with her, a stranger, on the park bench in between classes.
You do have this great detail. As soon as he gets up to walk away, she immediately picks up her phone and calls Anthony. And it's timed just perfectly. Just as he walks around the corner, Anthony answers the phone. So you have no information gleaned in that moment.
Yeah, at this point, you're still kind of wondering if this is legit. Like, are they two different people? Is it in his mind? Is it in both their minds? Is it one person leading a double life and they're like, split personalities or something? I feel like it's still kind of nebulous at this point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So back home, Anthony, it seems totally oblivious. He's gone for a run and he's talking about, like beating some young pup that was trailing him, and out on his run. And he says, "Why did you call me earlier?" Which was interesting. Did you call me for a reason? And we also have the reference to organic blueberries for his shakes.
Anthony likes blueberries. Key fact.
Yeah. So Slim, what is your position on organic blueberry shakes as part of a training regimen?
I like to mix in strawberries and blueberries into my yogurt shakes with milk. I wouldn't freak out about it like Anthony did when he found out that there was no blueberries, like a total psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is a zero. She needs to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
ASAP. Helen. This guy is nothing but trouble. She's a little bit too forgiving, probably.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this guy's a nut.
Yeah. Well, she asked him, he's like, what's wrong?
He had the same voice. He looks exactly like you.
What do you mean exactly like me?
What's happening?
I really don't know what you're talking about.
I think you know. I think you know.
So for her, she's kind of trapped, right? She's pregnant and married, and kind of at his command. But it flips directly from there to the hallway shot. So back in the original hallway with the naked woman walking down the hallway, upside down with a spider face.
Dun dun. Spider face.
Yeah.
Spider face.
And then Adam wakes up, and then Anthony wakes up. They show both of them waking up from that dream, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, there's still some vague story stuff happening at this point. Like the spider appearances, references to the spider, and then a woman just walking from that club with a literal head of a spider. Very on the nose that something's about to happen or there's something happening.
Yep. So Adam meets Anthony at the hotel. I loved having the No Country for Old Men shadow shot homage.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
That's well spotted.
But then you have this great moment. So this is the first time you see the two of them on screen, and the sort of revelation, you have the shot of Adam, and he kind of laughs and he says, "I told you." And as Anthony comes in, the body language of these two human beings could not possibly be more different. And I think that's Slim to what you were saying earlier. Like, that's the genius of Jake in this role.
Why do you think he asked him to see his hands at the onset of that meeting?
My older brother's hands look identical to my hands. Like, we have the same hands that my dad had. So that's an easy way to identify. I think that's my take.
I thought it was maybe he was looking to see if he'd had the wedding ring. That later is the thing that identifies Anthony as Anthony.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Total nut.
So he references the fact that he has a scar. Anthony shows his scar. Adam panics and he takes off. And you have the great shot of Anthony on the motorcycle pulling up aside and then hauling ass away. Anthony comes home and he tells Helen that guy won't bother them again. And then you have this great panning shot where it turns the corner into Anthony in the bathroom. And he's like holding his face and he's definitely really shaken, which I thought was really cool.
So when he's looking at his chest and he sees the scar that he refused to show Anthony, is it on the same side or is the perspective different because of the mirror?
I think it's the same side. I think they have the exact same scar.
Yeah, I think so.
On the same side of their bodies.
Interesting.
I read some post about the scars that was like one like kind of, dream interpretation of the scar is like it's basically the character's name is Adam, and Adam's rib was a source of creating life.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
why not throw that in there?
Yeah. All right, I can see where this is going.
He says sure like that's an obvious. Like, yeah, I got that right away. I don't know why you had to Google that.
Yeah. No, not that. No. I can sense from Jason's his effervescence. I can see where his rating of this film is headed.
I don't dislike this movie. I think this movie is
great.
Fine.
So Anthony begins to take things to the next level. So he stalks Adam, but then he sees Mary and he's like, "Oh, forget this Adam dude. Like, that guy's a nobody. What about this Mary?" This scene is so like, first of all, there's a shot of him leaning on the motorcycle with the helmet.
Amazing shot.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
What aspect ratio or lens or whatever, it was gorgeous. And I actually did it twice, the 2 times that he comes there. But him like checking her legs out on the bus, like a total creepo. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, right as soon as he was following her, I knew like, oh God, he's going to impersonate Adam somehow, some way, and he is going to have relations with this woman without her knowledge. And I was just like so skeeved out for probably the rest of this movie, just waiting for that to happen. And it slowly unfolds and does happen. Ugh.
So meanwhile, Adam goes to see his mother. So Isabella is there. She says that he has a good job, that he loves strawberries.
Those blueberries.
Or sorry, blueberries. She talks about him having a great apartment.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird because she left the message the first time saying, how can you live like that?
Yeah.
And then the second time says that. And then she finally says, quit these fantasies of being a third-rate actor.
Yeah. Love it. This is my favorite scene in the movie.
So she's talking to Anthony?
She's talking to, well, I mean, this is where I think we get into the fact that this is not on the level. Like, you know, like you can pick a path about what you think the reality is, that this is all a dream, or that they're the same character and, you know, he's a character having a split personality crisis. Like you can make a case for any of those, but I don't think you can make a case once you have the Isabella Rossellini scene.
So like, what was that scene then? She talks to him as if she's talking to Anthony.
Right.
At this point, do you think it's just, you know, in his head, and that this isn't really happening? Like, what's your view at this moment in the movie?
That's a great question. Like I was gonna say, as you were laying out, I don't think I can even say what the options are for what is actually happening here.
You mean overall, or like when we're watching
overall,
the movie?
sure, overall.
I think, okay, so I think, well, there's a couple different theories. I particularly I will shout out Chris Stuckman, who made a 30-minute video on Enemy, which I found pretty good. And the theory that he lays out is that the reality of the movie is not open to interpretation. There's one interpretation of the movie, and that is that the character Anthony, or the guy who's married, the guy who's got the baby on the way, is having an identity crisis because he feels trapped by marriage and the impending baby, and he he is inventing this way out of that reality. And so when the character shows up in the Isabella Rossellini scene, it starts to kind of fray, because there's not actually two characters. There's only one character. And so you're getting aspects of both. The fact that he actually likes blueberries, the fact that he has a good job as a university professor. You're not getting just kind of one, you're breaking down the barriers between the two.
So are you asserting in this case then that Anthony actually does work at the university as a professor?
I think he's actually a failed actor.
He has 3 credits over 7 years.
Right. Yeah. He's a fail. Neither reality is 100%. He's not actually the university professor, and he's not actually this actor who's got the dope apartment. He's a failed actor who is trying to figure out what to do about the fact that he feels trapped by his pregnant wife.
You know what? I bet Helen has money.
Could be.
That's why he has the apartment. No, but it's it's not, none of it's on the level. It doesn't, there's no clean answer to the, you know, what is the reality? Because we're not in a real realm.
Yeah, that I know we haven't really talked about the final aspects of the movie, but the vibe overall, even before this, is I'm wondering if I'm not really going to get a real finite answer as to what's happening here. This is, like you said, a surrealist. There's not a ton of movies, mainstream movies, that really do this. This is 2013.
Yeah. And
I can't remember a movie that I've watched recently that didn't give you answers. You know, at the end, you're like, what? Well, is that it?
Denny did say on Deacon's podcast that that his kid was telling him that he needs to make a sequel to Enemy so that he can explain what the F was going on in Enemy, since it made no sense. So we have this great shot coming off of him meeting his mom. We have the spider in the distance walking, and then of Toronto, and then above the skyscrapers. Like that's just an amazing image. It kind of reminds me in some ways of Simon Stellenhag, who does Tales from the Loop on Amazon, and just great sci-fi and kind of very surreal imagery.
So that spider is like a explicit reference to a piece of art, which is a sculpture by Louise Bourgeois. It's a sculpture called Maman, which is mother, obviously, and it is there's one in Canada, there's one somewhere in Ontario, but like there's a bunch of these. I saw one in the south of France, like you do, and it's a really dope sculpture. Like it's this really cool large scale spider. And I was talking to Crystal about this right before we started recording. I was like, what was your reaction to that spider? Like when we saw that sculpture? And what she said was something like, it was both alluring and frightening, which I think is both correct and like a key to what's going on with the spiders overall.
God, I love how unreal it is. So then we cut to Anthony practicing his line delivery as an actor. Did you fuck my wife?
Yeah. Did you fuck my wife? Yeah.
Smashing the mirror. But I think, when he cracks and he just kind of like, he breaks character, and he's rubbing his hands together and laughing. He's like, yeah, that's it. Now we got it.
Yeah.
So he goes to Adam's apartment, walks in.
Did you fuck my wife? This is crazy. Just answer the question, man. Just answer my fucking question and then I will leave. You're fucking crazy. All right. I'm fucking crazy. I'm fucking crazy. I am fucking crazy! I'm fucking crazy! You brought my wife into this, man! So I'm gonna bring your girlfriend into the picture as well. You want me out of your life? This is what's gonna happen first. You can give me your clothes and your car. I'm gonna take your girlfriend on a little romantic getaway. I'm gonna bring her back home tomorrow, and then I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna bring back all your stuff, and I'm going to disappear from your life forever. Then we will be even.
And he basically, Anthony totally dominates him, doesn't actually physically hit him or anything, but he just leaves. You see him getting dressed and taking off the wedding ring and driving away with Mary. And then you have Adam just sitting in the chair, just really despondent.
Well, how does that even work? Like, just say no to your presumed fake real double taking your girlfriend out for a weekend. Like, what is wrong with you, you dope? Just say, no, I don't think we're going to do that, actually.
Yeah.
You should leave now.
Right.
Maybe I will call the cops.
Like, and none of it makes sense if it was reality, right? But it does make sense if like Anthony is this like version of his like sexual identity that feels trapped and like is like looking for someone else to hook up with, and so he's like, okay, like like this is how I'm going to get out of this. This is how I'm going to get out of this thing, and like and the version of him that's too weak to say no, like lets it happen.
So I guess in that respect, then Adam at that point going to Helen's, he's going to get his, but you do have Adam getting back up in there, changing into Anthony's clothes, being kind of bored. He finds the picture. He sees that the picture is not ripped and it's Helen there. So you have, I guess this is an attempt basically for Anthony to integrate the idea of Adam as being a more thoughtful, like he's asking her, does she need anything? Is there anything he can get her? And kind of trying to be sweeter to her.
Yeah, it's the version of him. Adam in that is the version of himself that's trying to make it work. Like that's trying to like, make the domestic life work with the responsibilities that he has.
So at this point, when he's kind of play acting as Anthony with Helen, and she asks, they're like in bed together, and she asks him how school was.
Right.
How was your day at school?
She knows.
today?
She knows what's up.
She knows.
Yeah, she knows what's up, that there's some, that like he's like, again, I don't think it's meant to be like she's like figured out that he's not, like there's the level which she knows that it's like actually Adam and not Anthony, but like there's also the level which is like there's this bleeding reality where it's like he is actually not the Anthony character that wants to act out and like leave her, and he is this Adam nice character who's like trying to figure out how to make it work.
That's right. She can see like he's that part of him that is good. that she wants to be there. And so you have Anthony and Mary getting busy on the weekend. She notices the tan line from his wedding ring, and she freaks out, and they have a fight and are heading back to the city. Adam, back on the couch, is crying, and Helen is comforting him. He's saying that he's sorry, and I guess this is maybe for all the past infidelities that he's done. Right. But she basically says she wants him to stay. And so I guess to the extent that this is the idea of him as the good, instincts, that makes perfect sense that they're doing that. So as they are on the couch, Mary and Anthony fight. And, she says he's not a man, and he freaks out, I'm not a man. And then they crash hard. That crash scene was amazing.
Yeah, it was a good crash.
The shot of it was fantastic.
Yeah, very scary.
And it ends with like a close-up of a spider web crack on the windshield.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the final shot of the film here. So this is Adam. He opens the envelope and he sees this key that is in there, and he realizes that's the key to get into the sex club. And he immediately knows. And Helen's like in the other room, like,
I forgot to tell you that your mother called. She'll probably call her
so like the
back.
domestic shit is on, like Lori and Amy at the end of Little Women.
Helen, did you plan on doing something tonight? Because I think I have to go out. Helen?
She doesn't answer, and he walks into the room.
Helen?
And there is this giant fucking spider, but it's terrified and back against the corner, all the way backing as far possible as it can, and he just sort of sighs and looks at her. Credits.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends right there.
Yeah. Until enemies.
I laughed so hard. Yeah.
Very, very strange ending. Like on my first viewing, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, did the spider represent fear? Is this like a really just kind of in-your-face metaphor for him being intimate with women? And now as we're kind of discussing it, it does make more sense that we're kind of like inside his psyche a little bit, and him kind of maybe allowing that self, the bad self of himself, like pushing it away. It almost felt like to me now that like he's inching back towards it. It's almost like a man who has dissected his various selves in therapy sessions and is kind of now apparently in front of him, like the bad one's creeping back.
Yeah,
like
and,
right away.
And I think there's a couple reasons why we think that's true. One is like the movie tells us that like in his Adam's lecture that like history repeats, first as tragedy and then as farce. And so like we're kind of conditioned to believe that this cycle will be a cycle and will continue. And then, two, it's like he's given this key that like is, meant to like kind of unlock the same bad behaviors that happened before. 3, like the key that like the key that unlocked the sex club, is where he saw the woman almost stepping on the spider. And so the recoiling of the spider is the spider being afraid of like being squashed, by him. So I think all of it's meant to kind of set up the idea that like, yes, this is a psychological movie about like his patterns of, having trouble with, being attracted to but repelled by like commitment and wanting to like crush that, and then being locked in this pattern where it repeats. It's funny, I didn't know how the movie ended. When the spider showed up, I was like, oh yeah, for sure, giant spider, that checks out. Like I it was just like, this movie is definitely gonna end with like, it's like the same thing as like Eyes Wide Shut. Like Eyes Wide Shut doesn't end with a giant spider, but like it does end with like Nicole Kidman being like, we should fuck or whatever, and it's just such like a dead drop like of an ending where you're just like, yep, credits, we're done here. Like this is like, the end of this particular dream.
H, what did you think of the movie? This is your second viewing.
So I love how beautiful this film is. And I enjoyed the performances so much that for me, it was really fun to be thrown off guard and to be really confused and trying to figure out like what is happening. I probably prefer films have a little bit more clarity and internal logic. But I enjoyed this as a dream state. And I guess I would say for me, for Dune 2020, I love seeing Denis being sort of aggressive visually, but still super grounded, and sort of even taking the unreality of the spider in the skyline, but making it seem real and unreal at the same time. So blending that fantastical. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I can't think of another mainstream movie that was just so nebulous.
Well, I mean, like, like Inception, like, famously, like, people debate about what really happens at the end of Inception is like another puzzle box movie.
Slim, what's your letterboxd on Inception, please?
I don't know.
Please.
I haven't rewatched Inception. Inception's a little bit more clear though. Like you're allegedly going into people's dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the movie, are you still in the dream or you're not?
Right. But I guess this one's a little less clear.
Yeah.
Like that's just one question. Like, oh, maybe the whole thing was a dream. But like this one is like, there's like 5 different ways you can interpret what the hell just happened on screen for 90 minutes.
Right.
The one other thing I'll say just about like, on the topic of like, what does this movie tell us about Denis Villeneuve,
please,
and his role in directing Dune, is there's this quote I found on the very reliable Wikipedia page of Enemy, place where all good research begins, where Denis gave this quote: "Sometimes you have compulsions that you can't control coming from the subconscious. They are the dictator inside ourselves." And like this is like what Adam is like. Why is Adam talking about dictator and systems of control? Mm-hmm. And it's because like Denis answering the question with that quote. So, it's about like the dictators, the compulsions. And that's like why there's these shots of like, even besides the specific spiders, there's these shots of webs and like the power lines overhead. It's like, him feeling trapped by these compulsions. The way I think that relates to Dune is that there is a subconscious level to the story of Dune where Paul feels trapped by his prescient visions and the systems of control that are put up around him. And he's trying to avoid creating an authoritarian state himself, and ultimately is not successful. So I think these themes of
that was a Dune spoiler.
He's a little bit of a spoiler, but these themes of compulsion these themes of compulsion being expressed as authoritarianism could be something useful in the Duneverse.
That is a good take. That is a very good take. All right, one final piece of business. So, Slim, who would Tilda Swinton play?
Yes,
in your version.
Let's see. I love the actress that played Helen, but I wouldn't mind her playing Helen in that role.
Yeah,
so I think you need a really strong actor in that role, and she could probably nail it.
Yeah.
Jason.
Well, I mean, it's obviously the spider.
Just Tilda Swinton walking over the city of Toronto.
Every time we do this segment, it's like not to do it as a trick shot joke, but like the trick shot is always just really compelling somehow. I think Helen is the correct choice, probably.
Nice. I like it. All right. Well, that brings us to our letters and voicemail segment. So, Jason, tell me about all the letters content that we have.
What do we got? Do you have any content?
I do. You don't have to provide anything. It's totally fine. I have voicemails. I've got good voicemails. So,
all right, I'm going to let you go.
Okay. All right. So we have appreciated the fact that a lot of folks, rather than writing us letters, have been taking us up on our offer to send us voicemails. So let me bring you a couple of voicemails that we have received. Here is the first one.
Hey, Dune Podders, long-time listener, first-time caller. So after seeing the trailer, this is the most Dune I've ever seen, I have to admit, was the trailer for this Dune. I never actually saw the David Lynch movie. I had planned on watching it soon to get spun up on Dune. I've never read any Dune. Oddly, I haven't seen most of the movies or shows you guys talked about either, but I still listen every week, so that's a little weird. I understand. But the Dune trailer, the new one, the one that's coming out this year, hopefully, has me fully intrigued. I'm very excited. I'm a big fan of many of the people in the film. Jason Momoa, Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet. It looks, I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. It's the kind of sci-fi I want. Fingers crossed that all goes well for them and that they can release it in the theaters. I don't know if that's how likely that's going to be or not in December, but I'm definitely all on board. So keep making your Dune Pod that I can listen to and learn about things that I know nothing about. And eventually I will watch a Dune and feel like I know what's going on this show. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
All right. So
that's a great voicemail. That's an inspiring voicemail. Because if someone's
absolutely
listening to this that isn't a fan of anything that we're talking about, we must be doing something. I mean, we got to be doing something right. We got at least one listener who is like, I don't like any of this shit, but I'm still listening. Good for you. Thank God.
Well, he didn't leave his name, but that was that a South Philly accent?
That did sound like a South Philly accent recorded probably from underneath a blanket in the dead of night so that their partner couldn't hear them leave that voicemail. That's what it sounded like to me.
That's right. That sounded suspiciously like Ren Mike D, who is the host of the Will Run For podcast and a good friend of the show and a really good guy. So
that's great.
Mike, thank you for listening every week. I will give a shout out. Every week I listen to our good friends, Charles Forsman and Dale Andrews. They have the podcast Bat and Spider at batandspiderpod.com. And they do kind of low rate horror movies that are just terrible. And I have seen, I think, like 1 out of 21 of the films that they've done, but it just doesn't matter at all. It's just the best thing to listen to those two guys talk. So highly recommended.
That's great.
All right, we have one more voicemail. This voice, I think we will also recognize.
Hey, Dune Pod. This is Protolexis. Wanted to call in and give my first impression of the new Dune trailer. Happy Dune Trailer Day. But first, let me just make a comment about this episode's feature presentation of Enemy. I remember seeing this, really loving Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. Kind of an underrated, under-the-radar, low-key, great actor, wouldn't you say? I love him in Nightcrawler as well, another great flick.
I do want to see that.
The scene that stuck with me from this movie is where he and his wife meet outside of the classroom, and they sit on the benches, and he doesn't recognize her, and then he walks behind the building and answers the phone. I thought that scene was amazing, and I think about that regularly.
Can I just pause for a second? What is causing Proto to think about that scene regularly?
What's causing Protolex's diction in this voicemail either?
Slim, can we use this audio, or do I need to have him re-record on his microphone?
Spiritual advisor does it again.
That's right.
Right away.
He's really putting some mustard on this voicemail.
Yeah. All right, continuing.
Really great moment in that movie that stuck with me. But the Dune trailer, I think my favorite part is the ornithopter sighting in there. It's always been one of my favorite parts of Dune, period. And I think they really nailed it. I love the design. It looks like an insect. It has the flapping wings. So I love that aspect of it. The only thing I'm concerned about is, I don't know, it looks kind of drab. I know it's pretty close to what's in the book, but I don't know, man. Black and gray and tan and desert. Maybe a little bit more life is what this needs. Do we have to be so serioso? I don't know. But I think it looks great. I just wonder, the person who knows nothing about Dune, they watch this trailer. Does this spark any interest in the series? That you don't really learn anything about what's going on. But I guess that's for the next trailer or the final trailer, which will kind of have some more narrative to kind of string you along. Other than that, of course, I'm really excited. Slim, Love you, Ben.
Love you too.
Wow.
God bless.
That's right on about the potential drabness. I just realized, I mean, how long is this? We don't know the runtime of the movie, 2 hours maybe of just watching that kind of color scheme. That could probably get kind of grating.
Let's make proposals right now. I think it's going to be 2:45.
Cripes.
I think it will be shorter.
You do?
Yeah.
How long was Blade Runner? Blade Runner was like
3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh God. And that was nice to look at though.
Yeah.
You know, the colors were popping in that.
I think it's going to be closer. I think it will be 2:25.
I actually think 2:20 would be great. The one thing that struck me on Enemy was I saw the runtime of 91 minutes and I was like, hell yes.
Yeah,
Tight.
I was excited about that too.
Short.
Yeah, that was very nice. Well,
What's the rumored end point of the movie compared to the book?
We don't know.
Is it
I know.
oh,
it's confirmed?
oh shit, I
Yeah.
forgot.
Through
Yeah.
through channels, through
Confirmed through
miscellaneous
channels. Yeah.
back channels.
Yeah, I've got our Fedekeen Warrior Empire has alerted us to the truth.
Do you feel good about
So
it?
does that influence your runtime then?
Yes.
Oh, because you know how many
I
pages
know how many
it is.
pages are in the script.
Do you feel good about where it ends without
Yeah.
saying where it ends?
Yeah, I feel very good about it. And if you think about it, the reason I feel very good should indicate to you where it ends.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. For those of you who've been listening carefully, there was a discussion about where Jason thought the movie should end in episode 1 of Dune Pod.
I remember that. I remember that.
Way back in the day. That is incredible. Well, Slim, anything you want to plug?
Well, if you're enjoying Dune Pod, you might enjoy 70 millimeter. We each host picks a different movie every week, pretty much, and we go through it and we have fun together. And we just did Seven Samurai. Watched that for the first time on HBO Max. Love HBO Max.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to ask you about one other podcast that you host, which is Interview with a Podcast Vampire, the Tom Cruise retrospective. So when is the Mission Impossible 3 episode? You guys have covered every movie in Tom's career up to Mission Impossible 3. When does that drop?
That's a good question. Hopefully you'll include a link in the episode notes for any Tom Cruise Dune fans that want to listen to that podcast. I don't know. It's been since May. I actually just looked it up. We haven't done an episode since May. And Mission Impossible 3 is the next one, which is probably one of my top 5 Tom movies.
Jason.
Oh my God.
Jason,
what a movie.
What is going to make more money, Dune or Top Gun Maverick?
Probably Top Gun Maverick. I mean, like the international on Top Gun Maverick is just kind of banked money, I think.
I'm pretty sure the Chinese government paid for most of Top Gun Maverick as well.
They did.
What?
Do you know the story about
no.
how in the original Top Gun, Tom Cruise's leather jacket has a patch for Taiwan on it. Not gonna work in the reboot with the Chinese government kicking in. So that has been changed to Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah. Any large set pieces I feel like that have happened in Mission Impossibles, you know, there's some coordination with the local governments happening. I think China has been a big backer of his movies for many years, and this is probably the largest notable event that kind of opened people's eyes to it.
What if Tom Cruise shows up in a surprise role in Dune? What if he's like the Emperor? What if in like the series of like the second shot of the movie, it's like the Spacing Guild showing up to like talk to the Emperor and it's just fucking Tom Cruise? I would lose my entire shit.
My pants would explode.
It's him in the Tropic Thunder outfit.
What if Tom Cruise is the Guild navigator and it's just like he's like in a crazy space worm prosthetic?
You only see it like in the credits. No one knows about it until the credits roll.
My God.
That's vintage Tom.
Yeah.
Vintage Tom.
And that's it for this episode of Dune Pod. I want to thank Jason for his insights and Slim for his guidance always. Next week, join us for a rousing discussion of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow us at Dune Pod on Instagram and Twitter and share our social media posts, as it really helps new listeners find the show. Dune Pod is a production of Haitch Industries, a member of the Paper Keg Radio Syndicate. The episode was produced and edited by me, H. Our artwork is by Catcher, and our theme music was composed by Toby Forsman of Whipsong Music. Thanks for listening. We'll see everybody next week.